Hello everyone, welcome back to the Foreplay channel. I'm Bella.
I'm Jase.
Today's video is all about creating a sexy, sensual environment whenever you are hosting, having people over. Really, this shines best whenever you're traveling. The different lights and things that we bring really are meant to be pretty portable, and so it's what we always bring, but we also use these at home. I will say whenever we're at home, you do have more of an option to have a better speaker system and have even more lights if you want. So kind of take this if you're using it just at home for kind of like the basis of it, and then you can always add more. But like I said, this really shines whenever you're traveling, so this is really more so our travel kit.
Also, we are not going to show you every single item that we use, but we will have our Amazon storefront where you're able to go to. So we'll have that link below, or you can go to foreplay.com/favorites. That's number 4OURPLAY.com/favorites. And that way you can actually see all the stuff that we're using. You can order it from there, and it makes it a lot easier if you're looking for some of the same items that we personally use.
If you're watching this on YouTube, these lights that we have back here, that is one of the things, so that's why we can't show it, because we're actually using it.
So with all of this, before we jump to the first part, why we really think it's so important to create kind of this sexy environment is it just sets a different mood. It creates a different ambiance, and it can just make your time while you're on a vacation or at your own house or whatever is a lot more enjoyable. We know we've all been to those places where you walk into a room and you see the lighting, and it just makes you feel a good way when the lighting is really fun or maybe sensual. And so it's really important just to create that fun and sexy ambiance. And so that's what we're going to go through, is a ton of different things to kind of create that. And it really plays on your senses, and when your senses are enhanced, it just makes the overall experience even better. So when you're kind of like thinking about things that you're setting up, if you just think about how those five senses are, you know, the taste, touch, sight, smell, everything, and then you think about how those different things affect you, you can kind of work things into place. You know, you can have candles, or you can see the lights because of your eyes, or just different things like that. So make sure to just think about how the senses are incorporated as we're going through these things as well, because it will also help just enhance the experience overall. So the first thing we're going to talk about is lighting. I think lighting is one of the most important things. We have friends all the time that come to our rooms on vacation and say, your room is just, it's so fun. And I know personally, it makes a huge difference. I mean, look at our lights down here. It's not something crazy, but it's something that's very easy to take with you. You can move them around, and they just create a fun environment. These ones behind us, they're red right now. They can kind of change colors, but it's really important to kind of create that ambient light. We've all seen those overhead lights before. They're just like the white light shine on your head. It's not flattering on anybody. They're just not as fun. They don't feel as sexy. And so being able to use a light that you can kind of create your own environment is really, really fun. You can give it that more of a sensual feel. You can give it more of a party feel. So you can kind of also change those lights. So you can kind of change your feelings during your actual time. So maybe you're partying at the beginning, so it's rainbow, or it's changing colors, but then maybe later it gets that more of that sexy atmosphere. You move it to the reds, you move it to the blues.
The kind of lights we have are these portable ones that you can keep plugged in via USB, or you can have them just already charged, so then you can kind of put them around the room wherever you want. Because they're so small, they are so portable, so we carry around 3 of them with us whenever we travel. But if you do travel with more of a like larger luggage, you can even bring like up to 6. I feel like you wouldn't even need more than that. But if you're on a cruise ship or something, those rooms are pretty small to begin with, so I don't think that you need more than 3. And then we also have these other little lights too that Jase will talk about.
We have one light that is this tiny little astronaut, and it projects a galaxy type thing onto the ceiling. It's really cool. You can change the colors of that. It's just kind of another fun thing that adds to that. We also have these really small, almost like disco lights that change between different colors that will flash and flicker that are really cool. They're also super small, super portable. They're voice activated or music activated. So like when music is playing or you're talking, they'll kind of go to the rhythm. Yes, it's not perfect, but it is kind of cool, and it just kind of enhances that overall. With the lights that Bella was talking about, they have ones that you can plug into a wall as well as the ones that are completely chargeable and portable. We have both. We feel like the ones that are completely portable and chargeable are much easier because you can put them in different places in the room that maybe the plugged in ones only have 1 or 2 spots you can use. So if you're at home, the ones that plug in can be great just because you have plenty of spaces and outlets, but especially when you're traveling, we really recommend using those portable ones. And the last thing with lighting that I think is important is knowing how kind of like the colors will make you feel. So if you have these warmer tones like your reds, maybe your deep purples, those are going to give more of that sexy feel, or when you have colors that are a little bit brighter, like maybe like a bright blue or a green, those are going to kind of give more of that cool feel. It could be maybe more of a party feel. So that's something else to think about whenever you're kind of changing the lighting is just, are those warm colors? You're going for that sexier feel, those cooler tones. Maybe you're going for more of that party feel. So that's something else you can keep in mind when you're using the lights to kind of get the colors that you like the best.
Next is music, which definitely sets the pace and it definitely sets the mood as well. When it comes to playing music, when we're traveling, we just travel with this little JBL speaker, and it's portable enough and the sound is good enough to whenever we're in a room, like a hotel room or a cruise cabin, it definitely fills up the space without it sounding bad. That is the biggest tip, I think, when it comes to a speaker. Just make sure you're choosing one that doesn't sound like it's muffled or crackly, because that can be pretty harsh. When you're in the room listening to music, you don't want it to be something that's harmful or like annoying to the ears. Choosing the right music, the right playlist, and adjusting it to fit the vibe and the mood is definitely also important. Whenever we first kind of have people over, it's more of a party kind of pop vibe, but then once we move into play, that can also depend on the kind of play that you're doing, right? Like sometimes there's more of like an R&B feel will be more of the vibe. Sometimes some more of that like dungeony, like kinky feel might be more of the vibe. So depending on the people you're with, depending on the vibe of that night, that can definitely change and shift. We do have a bunch of playlists if you want to kind of have just something playing and not have to think about it. We'll also have that on foreplay.com/favorites, and you can just go there if you want. They're YouTube music playlists, but if you don't use YouTube, there's apps and stuff out there that you can use to transfer it to Spotify or whatever music streaming preference that you guys have.
So next thing that we've kind of noticed that can kind of help with enhancing that environment, which is not a necessary thing, but can add something, is kind of some visuals for the background. So what we mean by this is lots of time in your room or on a cabin, or you're at a hotel takeover or at your own house, you'll have a TV that you can be able to play something on. So we'll kind of play those erotic or sensual videos on the TV, and that way, it's not something you're constantly actually watching, but it's something that's on the background. So whenever you look up or you're seeing around, it just enhances that overall sexy environment. Ways to do that while you're kind of traveling is you can use a USB. So maybe if you already have some videos downloaded, you can put those on a USB or a hard drive and plug those straight into the TV. You could also use an HDMI cord, plug in from your computer into the TV, and that way you're able to do that with a computer. So there's a couple different options of ways to actually do it. The one thing we would recommend though is keeping it muted or at least on a low volume, and then that way it's not kind of distracting. Maybe you hear a little bit in the background, but for the most part, you're not really going to hear it. You're not going to see it that often, but it's just an enhancement when you do look up at that environment. Also, it can kind of come into play when you think about it. Your different groups, the videos can match that. So maybe there's 4 of you, and maybe you play a video where there's 4 people. Maybe it's a big group. You play a video with a big group of people. You can kind of match that video to the actual environment that you are in, and that can also kind of enhance that experience. We've also noticed times where like, hey, they're doing this thing, maybe we should copy them, and it's almost like this funny little thing, but it actually can enhance the play overall because it actually makes you think of ideas too while it's happening.
Next is scent. So whenever something smells really good, I definitely think that it enhances the experience. When you're traveling, you can't bring candles or anything like that. You definitely want to be safe. We highly recommend bringing those fragrance sprays or a fragrance mist. They have those concentrated room sprays that you can get at Bath and Body Works or other places. When it comes to the type of scent, I definitely think keeping to something that is more of a sensual vibe, something with like a sandalwood kind of smell, vanilla or musk, those kinds of things. Those kinds of scents really make for more of a sexier vibe. You can also do ones that are a little bit more bright. I wouldn't go for anything that is too overwhelming when it comes to like an essential oil. Sometimes those like tea tree or those kinds of scents can be overwhelming, or like eucalyptus, it can kind of be a little bit much. So you definitely don't want to go overboard with the scent. You just want to make the place overall smell good. They also have those scent warmers if you wanted to go with that. I still think that just the sprays are the best because there's no way for something to get spilled over like when it comes to those wax melts and things. When you're at home, using a candle I do think is really nice though, because not only does it have the scent, but it has like that flickering kind of vibe. If you're out and about and you're traveling, they even have those things that look like candles, but they're USB like chargeable, and so they kind of add that flickering if you wanted to go above and beyond. You could also use a scent diffuser, which makes for less of a impactful scent, but just a nice overall scent. And those ones they have on timer, so it's kind of continuously spraying or kind of creating that scent as you are leaving your room or leaving your house. Those are really good options.
This next part is something that I feel like can easily get overlooked, but is really important, and that is the temperature of a room. And so what we like to do is leave our room just when we're in it, probably around 72 degrees or so, and we don't like to move it to a lower temperature until maybe things are heating up, if that makes sense. And so essentially, if let's say we invite someone back to our house, we invite someone back to the room, at that point, we will leave it at a good temperature, but if things are kind of moving towards play, we'll go ahead and bump that temperature down, maybe 69 degrees, 68 degrees in that space, just because when bodies are moving, it gets kind of hot, and if it gets hot, it really can ruin the environment to a sense, and so just being aware of the temperature and being able to control that and being kind of forward thinking like, hey, it's moving this way, let's go ahead, bump the temperature down a couple degrees. That's 68, 69 degrees. It's very easy to remember. And that will just kind of help you continue to have that sexy environment because you won't be too hot and it just keeps a nice temperature. You can also have, extra sheets, extra blankets. So in case it gets a little bit too cold, you can always have that. Those are also nice just to have whenever you are at home or on a vacation, because you can also use them on the floor just to create a little bit more room if you need it. So they kind of have a double usage there. They can be used if you actually are cold, but also to kind of make extra play space as well, which is a really good use for those blankets.
Bouncing off of those extra sheets and blankets, you could also ask and make sure that you have extra towels. So we're going more into practical considerations, things that are just going to be helpful in general to have. Having those extra sheets, blankets, pillows sometimes definitely comes in handy, especially when it comes to the sheets, being able to change it out whenever people leave, and then you'll have a fresh sheets for whenever you're sleeping. It's just really nice to have those options. Having a designated area for cleanup, that's really nice too. Even at the beginning, if you kind of want to tell everybody, hey, this is where everything is. Having protection readily available is also super important. Having a space for toys and lube and all of those fun things. Just having it all in a designated space makes it really easy and even more comfortable for people to know where it is and feel free to use them. Another thing that people don't typically think about, but having mints or mouthwash, things like that can also, or gum can also really help.
So another thing that also kind of plays along with that is kind of having refreshments or maybe some water, things like that can be really helpful. Water is the biggest one in our opinion, just because you get dehydrated, you're moving around a lot, you're sweating, whatever it is, having a little bit of water just to drink can be super helpful. So whether that's bottles or, we bring our big water bottles for us and we'll have, some plastic ones for other people. That's a little bit harder when you're traveling, but at home you can definitely do that. Also, we like to have alcohol, a couple different kinds. Maybe that is a beer or a spritzer or, a couple different kinds of liquors. And that way people have a couple options. It's not necessary, but we're the kind of people who like to try to be the best host that we can be. And so having just a couple different options is really nice. Also, little snacks are really great. That could be, little trail mix type things, some chocolate. Bella brings gummy worms a lot. You can do lots of different just little easy snack foods, because that can be before maybe people are hungry, maybe afterwards you just finished a play session, you're kind of tired. Having a little bit of a snack is nice. So these couple little things are more like at home or hotel takeover. You could do some fruit, you could do, little clementines or things like that. You could have granola bars, you could have just pre-wrapped food, so maybe that's a little candy or something like that. But just having something to eat can also kind of enhance that experience, and I think overall it just makes you one of the best hosts that you can be.
Last one is having some kind of icebreaker or game to play, especially when you're having either people you don't know as much come over, or maybe you're hosting for a bigger group of people. Having some kind of activity to do just for everyone to get to know each other a little bit more definitely can help set the vibe and make people feel less pressured. Games can help ease nervousness, encourage interactions with each other, and also helps build that chemistry. Our personal favorite game we made ourselves, it's called Foreplay the Game. I know this is like a plug, but honestly the reason why we made it was specifically for this reason, is because we wanted some kind of icebreaker, something quick and easy to be able to use just to break the ice. And so that's why we created our game, for this specific reason. But it is a card game. We have a digital and a physical version, and it's a drinking game of sorts. You don't have to drink alcohol specifically, but everyone just has a drink in hand. There's different prompts prompts on each card. There's things where you're getting to know each other. There's things that are more physical. It's broken down into black cards and red cards, and the red cards are spicier. So if you know you're wanting it to go more towards that play version, you can add in more of the red cards. The digital version has that option as well. And so it has been the best way we have found to break that ice and get to know people a lot more. It just makes for a very easy, fun atmosphere. There are also a ton of other different games that you can do too. You don't have to go with the 4-play game, but you could do Two Truths and a Lie. You can do Never Have I Ever, just those simple, really fun games that people have been using for years. You could do a play on a sexy Jenga if you want. So there's lots of different options. We just like having the one that's like put out there that we know is specifically for the lifestyle environment. And so that's why we made ours. This keeps the energy just light and playful.
So there you have it. That is kind of the things that we do to have a sexy environment, not only when we're at home, but also on the road. Most of the things that we talked about today, you are able to do while you are traveling. They do not take up much space. We normally bring on one carry-on, one backpack, and we're able to bring
each.
Yeah. And we're able to bring everything that we need with that. So all of this stuff is super small, portable. We've been adding stuff for years. It's been growing and growing. And after 10 years in the lifestyle, 5 years of lifestyle traveling, that's what we found has worked the best for us. But you can always take these things, you can kind of make it your own, you can add your own stuff, take stuff away. But that's just kind of some things in general that maybe will make that sexy environment, and just things to keep in mind when you're creating that sexy environment. So we really, really hope that helps. Make sure to leave a like down below, subscribe so you never miss me post a video, and then comment down below if you guys have any other tips that kind of help create that sensual environment that maybe you've learned over the years. Drop those down below so we can learn, and so can everybody else that's reading those comments. But we really, really appreciate it, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Bye.